Chapter 2. Going for Grace. The Hiace minibus grumbled, as the side door slid aside for Joey to enter the cabin. He did, and instantly felt a weight of compliance on his shoulders. This would definitely not be an occasion for an adamant guy like Mark McKenzie.
"Thanks for picking me up, Brian,"
Joey said, as he sat in the first row, behind the driver's seat, caressed by the air coolant and fruity scent of the interior.
"You're running late, preacher,"
Brian Reeder said sternly, his veiny right hand tapping and gripping the steering wheel.
"You've never been late for church, as far as I'm aware. I should have left. However, I might be able to redeem some time for you. So, you might be safe after all. All said. Let's get moving."
Brian checked his mirrors and blind spots. Then the bus rolled away from the gate and began cruising down the avenue. Joey laid down his Bible on the seat beside himself and rubbed his face with his hands. He released a puff of tension. It's either now or never, he thought. He then leaned forward and dropped his voice.
"Brother, can I ask you a favor?"
Brian barely nodded, checking the mirrors, his eyebrows furrowed, his left hand resting on the gear stick. He seemed too intransigent, heading to their destination, to be bothered now. Still, Joey drew a deep breath and said,
"Can you pick up my girlfriend in Bladetown? She's ready, waiting on me. I wasn't able to tell you till now. I would really appreciate it."
He avoided catching Brian's glance in the rearview mirror. Brian seemed contemplative for a moment, even puzzled.
"Are you kidding me, preacher? That's on the other side of Simple City. We would definitely reach church late, if I do that. And by the way, you're scheduled to speak in less than, let's see."
He glanced at the time displayed on the dashboard.
45 minutes. Correct?
Joey swallowed and puffed.
"Yes, 6 o'clock. But I'll stand guilty before the elders and the church. She's worth the risk, Brian. I hope to wait for her at the altar one day, and I would want her to show up."
Nodding slowly, Brian sighed and said,
"Okay. I understand. I'm serious about God's business, preacher. But don't get me wrong. I know love when I hear it. And I'm all for love."
Then he flashed a pleasant side glance at Joey.
"Do I know her, though?"
Maybe not.
"Do you mind sharing her name?"
Joey leaned back as the bus merged with rush hour traffic on the main street, heading toward West Simple City. Joey replied reluctantly,
"Grace. She'll be attending our church for the first time. And that should be enough about her, Brian."
Brian smiled wryly and muttered, as if to himself,
"Grace. Thank God. My brother has finally found grace, in the eyes of the Lord."
He laughed, to Joey's satisfaction. Brian was a rather cool guy underneath the stringency. They overtook a red Toyota pickup van that appeared to be weary and heavy-laden with bags of agricultural produce. Brian said,
"Why don't your parents buy you a car? Make things easier for you?"
Joey watched the vehicles, each representing the socio-economic status of its Jamaican owner.
"Dad told me a long time ago that the less material a man has, the more genuine a woman's love will be for him, even if she's uncomfortable for a while."
He has a point. But what did your mom say about that?
Brian asked. Joey weighed his next reply.
"She disagrees, to a certain extent, as expected."
What's that supposed to mean?
"She's fine, as long as a man can help procreate, and provide for his family, and protect his wife, children, his house, and secure his financial assets."
I wish I had a dad to tell me all of this.
Brian shook his head and continued.
I had a moralist for a father, who believed the things you just said. But I think he was a religious fanatic. It was always too much church and not enough merch. If you asked me.
"Oh, yeah? He died?"
Joey said.
"Sorry to hear, bro."
Yeah, he died in a car accident 5 years ago. Long story. Then I was raised to adulthood by my uncle. As you know, he's the leader of conflict resolvers. So, I consider myself a conflict resolver as well. I'll have to continue the mission someday.
Brian chuckled and continued.
But your family funds the church, Joey. They're just as faithful as mine.
Joey said.
Seems so. But your family has more morals.
Yeah. But your family has more money, Joey.
That might be true. But your family called the shots.
Brian snickered and glanced up at the mirror.
Yeah. But your family fires the...
He paused.
Watch out!
Joey yelled. Brian yanked the steering wheel leftward and missed a right side, head-on collision with a white Honda Civic car, which itself, afterward, veered out of the path of an oncoming motorbike. Same time, an occupant of the car pushed his head out a passenger window, pointing gun fingers at the church bus, firing rapid-fire profanities.
Phew. Man.
Joey bemused, flashing his head, and felt a headache coming on.
That was close.
Brian said.
Those dudes are crazy, bro. That's why I don't date girls from around here.
Joey laughed. Brian seemed genuinely shaken, too.
You'll be okay, Brian. Just take it easy. And get us to Grace, safely.
Brian turned right, off the main road, into Blade Town. Joey gazed at the horizon ahead.
It's a dry evening, appealing pre-sunset too.
He mused. Then Brian said flatly.
Too bad it's the last sunset for millions of people around the world, preacher.
Joey said.
Actually, that's a really great sermonic point. Every creature on Earth has an expiration date. Interestingly, even names have a time to die.
Brian frowned.
What do you mean?
Joey shifted on his seat and sighed. Then he said.
All right. Hear this, my dad, my real dad, is serving a life sentence at Spanish Town Prison. Long story. My real mom is in a mental institution in Kingston. Longer story. Trust me. All right, so, I'll just say it this way, my mom had been suffering from bipolar depression, leading to bipolar disorder, for many years, without treatment, until... Turn right into Tavares Lane.
Joey interjected. Then he rubbed his face, remaining silent, as he pondered deeply.
Until what, Joey?
Joey shook his head slowly, gazing through the window at a near-distant past. He said.
Until she physically abused a boy I once knew, named Mark McKenzie.
Curiosity was now plastered all over Brian's narrow face.
Wait. Who? Your brother from another father? I didn't know you had a brother.
No. I only have a little sister. I haven't seen her since I was 10.
Joey lamented. Then he mumbled.
I was Mark McKenzie.
He breathed out slowly, his eyes becoming glossy, and he was ignoring Brian's shock.
I used to be Mark McKenzie, until 9 years ago.
For real?
Yes. For real. I was physically abused by my mom and left to die inside our house jail, as I used to call it. I was found by the police and social workers from CDC and CPA, an hour later. Thank God they were quickly informed by good neighbors. Long story short, my adoptive parents wanted to erase my dark past, by changing my full name, with my permission, to Joey Simpleman, through the Registrar General's department. You know, that whole deed poll thing. But I still see Mark in every mirror.
Brian shook his head.
That's messed up, bro.
Joey spoke boldly.
Yes. But it's my testimony of salvation, which I might share with the church someday.
He then pointed at Brian.
But don't let me regret ever telling you personally. I'm serious.
Then Brian tapped the steering wheel with his thumbs and shrugged.
Come on, Jay. You're safe with me. I couldn't find any resemblance, and I often thought about it. You're just not as good-looking as a simple man.
He chuckled, then quickly added.
Relax. Nothing personal. You're Joey Simpleman. I have your back, bro. Just chill.
Joey remained silent, until his face relaxed. Then he said.
Turn left onto Bolt Avenue, stop at gate 22.
Brian's face flashed trepidation.
No bro, Bolt Avenue is a dangerous place to be, at this time of day.
Joey said nothing. By now, a quarter of the sun was eaten up by a mountain peak. Checking his mirrors and turning left, Brian said.
Okay, Joey, let's go get your grace.